Yeah. We're back with Willem. We're sat down now. I'm having a great time geeking out with you, so thank you very much. Looking ahead to Silverstone 2026, there are going to be some rule changes. There are rule changes for aerodynamics. Shall we go through those?
Really, for me, there's one main one, and that is there's a reduction in height of the car, aerodynamic devices on the car, of about 100 millimetres. So all the teams will have pushed their rear wings up to that. So that's going to be the main real thing that's changed, and will require a little bit of a rework. As far as yes, it'll make a difference, but the teams are quite capable of working around it.
What difference do you expect that to be from your perspective?
When they first make a change, it might be 10% of downforce, maybe a bit less, 8% of downforce. By the time they're finished, a few percent, 3%. That would be my guess.
Because this is something
a rework.
This is something we touched on downstairs when we were looking over the cars, and I think it's worth discussing now. All of that aerodynamics, particularly the downforce, it's only invoked when at certain speeds. You've got to have the airspeed such that it's forcing the car down. And the debate has always been, do the Formula Student cars get to sufficient speeds where the aerodynamic package is useful? That was a debate we were having when I was in the paddock. I get the feeling it's a debate that's continual within Formula Student circles. Yeah. And I know you've said only put a package on once you've got everything else correct, and you've got through scrutineering, you've got through the dynamic events successfully. But even then, when you're a team like Staffordshire or like Oxford Brookes, when you've got the aero on, at what point does that become effective?
So at low speed, let's say you're going around a corner, then the extra mass you put on the car is going to reduce the tyre friction coefficient a little bit, and it's going to hurt you. But then the aerodynamics needs to be powerful enough that it overcomes the disadvantages of centre of gravity, height, mass, tyre friction coefficient reduction. It's got to be enough that it then gives you G-force around your skid pan. It's quite a tight turn, it's quite slow, and plenty of mathematical simulations and physical back-to-backs have shown, yes, it can definitely help you. And if you just look at the times suggest downforce will make you quicker in skid pan. In acceleration, it's a cast iron guarantee you will be slower if you have an aero package on. You're not allowed to remove it for acceleration. You can adjust elements and people will adjust, but there's always a mass penalty and there's always an aerodynamic drag penalty for carrying a package, even adjusted, let's say, to reduce its drag like a DRS used in Formula One. Then in sprint, it's likely to help you. In endurance, it's likely to potentially help you for lap time, definitely hurt you for efficiency. And if you're running an electric car, it's quite likely that the equation, that the balance is almost neutral, because you've got to carry a bigger battery pack if you have an aero package.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a heavier car, which reduces acceleration. So the benefits, I think, are going to be in skid pan and in sprint. The downside is definitely acceleration and efficiency, and then endurance is, and the good teams will have tools to be able to simulate the difference, and then hopefully enough testing time to really assess the difference as well.
And therein lies the challenge, because it's one thing to design an aerodynamics package that is successful and efficient at high speeds, but designing an aerodynamics package that is efficient and successful at low speed is a whole different ballgame.
Well, you've got to allow for, so you do get changes in the way the air behaves as speed increases. So you'll talk all the time about a drag coefficient, for example, for a road car. So you will have, for a motorsport car, you'll have a drag coefficient and an aerodynamic coefficient. Those coefficients sort of assume that air will behave in roughly the same way, with forces changing with the speed squared, speed times speed, which is not entirely true over the entire speed range. So at low speed, you're actually slightly more likely to have air separating from a wing, it being too aggressive and separating. At higher speed, that is slightly less likely. So usually a car will become more aerodynamically efficient with speed. But Formula Student cars run over a relatively, apart from acceleration where you're going from zero, and sprint and endurance, but endurance is a long run and one start. Yeah. You generally have your event running always at some speed, and then you have a relatively narrow range of speed simply because we can't allow a Formula Student car to go along a 10 miles straight and reach terminal velocity because we want to be sure it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the speed is limited by the construction of the courses. Therefore, the students can work out and test that the aerodynamics is going to work over that speed range. And really a critical speed is skid pan speed, because that's where you get your biggest theoretical benefit from the package. So if you design it for high speed, you're being crazy because, yeah.
You're never going to get up to those speeds. No. And if you are in the position where your team has got through scrutineering, has done all the dynamic events successfully and has run without aero, now is the time to put the aero package on. We were talking downstairs, we've seen traditional design packages for aerodynamics. What could teams do beyond the traditional, do you think?
So I think you might be alluding to fans, which you can't use in this competition.
No, unfortunately not.
Really.
I know they do use them in Germany.
Well, you've been able to use fans for a while, let's say around, but in this competition, because the extreme versions of fans are so noisy, they're really ear-piercingly noisy, very hard to test statically. You could, but then you would have to pass a noise test as well. But they can be a really fun way to learn. And really in 2024 you saw the most extreme versions in Europe of the fan cars, and the most extreme car won the event that they were where they were running. They won that event by such a margin, especially skid pan and sprint. They won it by such a margin, no one got close.
Wow.
But when you see the car operating, you hear the car operating, it is ear-piercingly loud. That's dangerous. So I suffer from very significant noise damage because of exposure to race car engines and wind tunnels all my working life with, in my early years, no hearing protection. And the impact is a loss of hearing, but also very loud in the background,
white
tinnitus,
noise.
noise in the background, which is, for me, has become constant, and it's as loud as your talking voice to me. That's a problem. It's one of the reasons I speak quite loudly.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be damaging young people's ears. Yeah, that's not sensible. But the performance can be spectacular. If you look at, for example, the electric acceleration record, which is held, I think it's still held by the Zurich Formula Student team. That's a car with almost no aero, a flat floor it looks like, and fans with some sealing devices, and they went from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 9 meters and less than 1 second.
Less than a second?
Less than a second. Now this is a record that's been bouncing around different teams, so it's not limited to a Formula Student car. This is the electric car acceleration record outside of drag racing. It's to watch with your eyes. It is just, the laws of physics have just been broken. You just can't believe that it's that quick. And the McMurtry car, when that took off at Goodwood, for example, for a lot of people that was one of those eye-watering, eye-opening moments when you see, wow, you get downforce at low speed, like at 0 speed. That would be spectacular, but it comes with all sorts of potential problems and more areas of failure, but it would be another really interesting area. And the Formula One cars have shown us that with a big team doing research, aerodynamic complexity can become extreme. And if you look at today's cars, they are in some areas fairly extreme, but if you look at the cars from, say, 2020, 2021, and you look in the middle of the car, the area we call the barge board areas, there were hundreds of aerodynamic elements there, hundreds, all being optimized, just nuts.
So beyond fans, within the context of Formula Student, obviously we can't run them at FS UK under the rules. What within the scope of the rules could teams do beyond the traditional design packages?
I would say one of the first areas I'd love to see is the suspension always has big brackets on the outside of the chassis. I'd love to see those cleaned up a little bit. We've seen in Formula cars, you can make the wishbones disappear into a properly structurally designed little mount that's inside the outer surface of the chassis. A little bit more work required to do that. That would be nice. But I would say there is a big area, let's call it the barge board area, where you could do a great deal of work. But the thing is, it would add enormous complexity to the design, the aerodynamic analysis and design of those parts, add yet more weight. And if you look at the teams that in Formula Student are successful, they're often not what you might expect. They're not going to be perhaps the cars with the greatest aerodynamic complexity. For example, 2024 Formula Student UK was won by a single-cylinder petrol engine car from Australia that was created by a group of students. The entire group was 17 students. Tiny compared to some teams, and they won Formula Student UK outright. Now, they had certain, let's say, logistical disadvantages, but they had certain time advantages. Their car was created for the December 2023 Australian event. They then were able to do additional testing. Then they put the car in a shipping container and ship it to the UK. That takes time. But they'd done lots of testing. And testing is one of the secrets to success. You know what's going to break. You know what the limits of the car is. The drivers learn the car.
So would you be in favour then of a 2-year design cycle for each Formula Student team, in the sense that you can almost have the car farm ready earlier?
I'd say there would be advantages and disadvantages. I'd say it would be an interesting thing to try. Creating a new car from scratch, a new team anyway, will always take more than 1 year. It's so difficult for students with no experience to start to create, let's say, effectively a company, and then a team of people working together to create a highly complex, difficult to engineer product, to get it delivered on time and to get it racing. Yeah. So a 2-year cycle would make a difference to those teams. The bigger teams are sort of ready. And one of the things I think is really special about motorsport is the fact that you can make a difference in such a short time frame. Yeah, for the automotive industry, that's a dream to be so fast, so reactive. Yeah, and it's one of the reasons that this competition is so fascinating to employers, because where else can a young person be a CEO, a technical director, a head of this? Where can a young person that's still at university learning design really important components of a car, understand stress analysis, get hands-on making things happen? It's such a great experience. Yeah.
So I'm going to end with one final question. If you had, and you will do later on today at Learn to Win, you've got the whole team in front of you from various different universities, what would be your message to them?
Where you can, keep it simple, and in particular, be early. Be ready early.
Keep it simple and keep it early.
Yeah.
Nice stuff. Willem, it's been an absolute sincere pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
A pleasure.